Good morning, panelists, and of course, good morning, Sir Alcaide. We are the fourth year PE students. I am Magdangan Kana Katrina. Before we proceed, I would like to introduce to you my co-researcher, Gravides Kimberly. Today, we are going to present to you our study in this course, entitled Challenges and Adaptive Strategies of Students and Their Performance in Physical Education. Because of immediately spreading of COVID-19 all over the world, the government decided to postpone the face-to-face classes for the meantime to ensure the safety of the students and the teachers. A lot of learners are struggling, specifically in physical education, that requires physical teaching that enables them to cope easily with a set of activities and tasks given to them. They are using a lot of mechanisms or adaptive strategies that will help them to cope with the asynchronous and synchronous learning, and also understand the lessons and avoid boredom and sluggishness during class. According to Briones, the Secretary of the Department of Education, we declare our victory over COVID-19, the destroyer of our lives, the destroyer of our life and society. But we will not allow COVID-19 to destroy our children's education and their future. Amidst of increasing numbers of cases and decreasing of opportunity to work and get a job, Secretary Briones still insisted and declared an online class through blended learning, and students are expected to adapt and be flexible from this new sets of learning modality, most especially in dealing to physical subject. Because of the pandemic, we are forced to adapt to the new normal learning system, wherein there are two modalities, which are online and modular distance learning, or also known as synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous online learning is currently gathering more attention than asynchronous because with advanced technology increases students' feeling of connection to instructions and other students based on the study conducted by Watts, which we firmly believe that through this way of teaching, students could still feel the way how face-to-face classes is delivered in imparting knowledge and shared of students' thoughts and ideas about the lesson. Next is modular distance learning. It is widely known as asynchronous, where teachers are distributing the modules to their students' houses and they were expected to answer the modules given to them within a week. It was believed that this type of learning, students have more chance to study their lessons but cannot understand well because there's no guide of the teacher. However, according to Gao et al., asynchronous was considered by the researcher as best plan for the student success and performance. Lastly is the goal of the study, is to determine how effective will be the adaptive strategies of students in performing in learning tasks in physical education, to which a lot of challenges will be seen in the new system of learning.
The theoretical framework first is constructivism theory. It is founded on a premise that people consciously construct or render their own knowledge and that your experiences as a learner decides truth. According to Western Governors University, learners basically use their prior experience as a basis and then add new information to it. Gokkorp and Wood said that constructivism theory, on the other hand, was not only a basis for study structure but also an educational philosophy that promotes online teaching and learning as well as the general inclusion of technology in education. Brunner and Piaget are considered as a chief theories of constructivism theory. This theory supports researchers' investigation into how challenges and adaptive strategies affect students' performance also in online class settings where students engage with the teacher and with one another just like in a normal classroom setting as per Asarito and Ennis said. Next is transactional distance theory. E-learning is directly affected by the transactional distance said by Moore. According to Bourne, it describes and quantifies the learning relationship between the teacher and the student in an e-learning situation where the two are separated by a significant physical or temporal gap. It was first proposed in 1997 and it regarded in many different types of distance learning as part of a category that could be analyzed in the same way. This theory provides a graphical representation that shows how the three variables, dialogue, structure, and learner autonomy influence transactional distance. This theory is present in all educational relationships as said by Moore. The amount of the dialogue between the student and structure as well as the amount of structure within a course is referred to as transactional distance. The more structured the course is and the less dialogue between the student and teacher is needed, the greater the transactional distance. The less structure in the course, the more dialogue between the student and the teacher is needed and thus the transactional distance is reduced. This is helpful to the researcher's study because it relates to the teacher-student relationship as well as how students learn in virtual classes or by distance learning. For the conceptual framework, as seen in this graph, it shows the flow of the conceptual framework of the study, wherein it will distinguish the performance of the grade 12 students in physical education. As a researcher, enabled for us to identify the performance is on the right track, the researchers will determine the first two main variables involved in the study, which are the challenges and adaptive strategies. With this, we will be able to know if the challenges affect the performance of the students in physical education and how the adaptive strategies will effectively help them to cope up in the new sets of challenges or learnings. As you can see on the graph, the challenges and adaptive strategies are both connected and arrowed with each other, which means as a researcher, we wanted to know if these two variables has a correlation with each other and if it has relationship to effectively contributes in students' performance in physical education. For the research questions, the study sought to determine the challenges and adaptive strategies of students and their performance in physical education. Specifically, the study sought to answer the following questions. Number 1, what are the challenges encountered by the students in learning physical education? 2, how the students adapt to the new learning environment. 3, what is the relationship between the performance of the students in pre-pandemic and pandemic school years? 4, is there a significant relationship between the adaptive strategies and the performance of the student? And lastly, how do adaptive strategies used by the student help them address the challenges of learning in the new normal?
For the methodology, this chapter presents the research method used, data collection instrument, data collection procedure, and statistical analysis of the data. The facts and aspect of a certain population or location of interest are accurately and properly depicted in a descriptive study. According to Wells, when determining what others are doing with similar issues or situation and utilizing their experience in creating future plans and judgments, the study was designed as a mixed method data, in which we collected and analyzed both quantitative and qualitative data in the same study. According to Wells, this combination allows for a more holistic understanding. For the research locale, the study was conducted in a public secondary schools in the Schools Division Office of Caloocan City. The respondents were grade 12 students enrolled in different strands. For the research instruments, in quantitative section, Google Form was used to create a survey questionnaire in the form of 5-point type Likert scale. The qualitative portion was in the form of grounded theory, in which thematic analysis was used with Facebook Messenger and Google Meet, and the participants were interviewed virtually and in writing. The researcher identifies and describes the respondents in terms of sex, age, strands, and study setting for the schedule of activities in Phase 1. Phase 2 includes the implementation of a survey and an interview questionnaire adapted from Bhaskaran and Hawaii Public School Organization. Phase 3 is where the researcher conducts the real research. Finally is Phase 4, using statistical methods, analyze the data, and interpret the results. In an interpretation, this indicates the mean, standard deviation, and coefficient variation of student total performance for challenges encountered in physical education. The respondent agreed that those are the challenges that they encountered in learning in physical education with a total mean value of 3.52, a total standard deviation value of 1.22, and coefficient variation with a total of 35.1. This means that the challenges encountered by the students in learning physical education would affect their performance and would contribute to their adaptive strategies in addressing and dealing with the new normal environment. According to the study conducted by Favas et al., Lebanese undergraduate students are being psychologically pushed by e-learning approaches in order to complete their education and meet university demands during the pandemic, which would have an impact on their academic progress if not addressed. According to Laar et al., the most significant components for maintaining high performance and accomplishing the genuine goal of the physical education field are contact between the students and the teachers, equipment, and essential facilities. In the table 4.2, the respondents neutrally rated themselves on how they can adapt to the new learning environment with a 3.41 mean value, a standard deviation of 1.16, and coefficient variation of 34.14. This shows that there is still a probability that students could adapt to the new learning environment, which gives them the guarantee that they will perform well and have a good grades even in the new learning modality, especially in physical education. According to Zhang and So, many research conducted prior to COVID-19 look into the prospect of online classroom as a future educational component, with the idea that online classroom can give a self-directed students with very efficient and diverse elective programs. They came to the conclusion that strategic learning methodologies need to be updated in order to better comprehend the features of online physical education and, as a result, better explain the benefits of physical education. Shared online physical education programs that foster collaboration among physical education teachers should also be used to improve teaching abilities. Furthermore, evaluation processes should be less formal in order to encourage active student participation. Table 4.3 shows the correlation value of grades in pre-pandemic and grades in pandemic of students in physical education. The obtained R value was 0.66, which indicates that there is a moderate correlation between the grades in the pre-pandemic and the grades in pandemic of students. The T computed with 9.13 is greater than the tabular with 1.93. Therefore, the null hypothesis is rejected, and there is a significant correlation between the students' grade in the pre-pandemic and the grades in pandemic. This means that, regardless of the situation, their grades are still determined by how well they perform. There are two types of factors or variables that have a significant effect on students' performance, external and internal. External factors include test results, extracurricular activities, family troubles, employment, and financial concern, as well as social and unique challenges. Internal factors include the classroom environment, learning facilities, and instructor function in class.
As a result of the study, the respondents neutrally rated themselves in addressing their challenges using adaptive strategies for the new normal, having a total mean value of 3.41 with a total standard deviation value of 1.11 and a total coefficient variation of 33.26. This means that the challenges students face while learning physical education are homogeneous and have a low likelihood of affecting their performance while also contributing to their adaptive strategies for addressing and dealing with the new normal education. According to Taylor and now Tamis, teachers who spend time and effort understanding and exhibiting compassion to their pupils are more likely to develop self-determination. From the narratives of the participants during the conducted interview, how adaptive strategies used by the students help them address the challenges of learning in the new normal may be summarized based on the following emergent themes. First is issues concerning technology with the following sub-themes: gadgets that are readily available at home, ability to connect to the internet on a regular basis, and inadequate technological knowledge. As a result, some of the participants stated that they are still having issues dealing with technology-assisted learning in physical education. Next is issues involving the economy, with sub-themes cost of mobile data and lacking of resources. This highlights the needs for tools and resources for students who study physical education as it requires more performance and execution. Third is issues related to the environment with sub-theme of inadequate learning space. Students struggle in this sort of environment due to the uncontrollable noises. Lastly, the challenges of students with the following sub-themes: inability to adapt and self-motivation is lacking. These sub-themes means that because of the new sets of learning in physical education, the students' motivation decreases, which leads to their losing interest in the system of education.
Three significant themes describing the student respondents' adaptive strategies used to address the challenges of learning in the new normal that have emerged from the coding and thematization of the acquired data. First is self-work strategies with the subthemes of printed sheets, internet connectivity, video clips, and printed learning material. Students have difficulties as a result of online learning, and their responses suggest that they are experiencing academic difficulties. They use a range of strategies as mentioned earlier to overcome and cope with those obstacles. Next is help-seeking strategies with the subthemes of participation in online discussion and online conversation. Despite the numerous hurdles, the participant comment shows that they still have an easy way to stay connected. Students reacted to the situation by enlisting the help of their teachers and families as well as engaging in the leisure activities. Lastly is the teacher involvement strategies with the subtheme of communication with the teacher. Physical education teachers, according to Taylor and Taumanis, can influence students' self-determination by employing motivational strategies. Since the pandemic, students have been learning to cope with the classes in the new normal modality and environment. Students are flexible to any form of change, whether it comes from traditional face-to-face learning or online learning according to the study. Student performance before the pandemic had the potential to change, with a probability of receiving lower grades depending on how they approach their performance in today's situation or with a different learning modality. It not only changed their perspective and willingness to learn the subject, but it also makes the most effective and efficient use of their prior experiences. This study also proved that the hypothesis is correct and that there is no correlation between the students' adaptive strategies and their performance in physical education.
As a result, the students' adaptive strategies and coping mechanisms gives them a small chance of success in addressing their challenges and problems in a new normal learning modality and physical education performance. But it is still not a guarantee that they will change their approach to learning physical education in a new learning modality despite the fact that traditional face-to-face and online learning settings, difficulties, tactics and approaches differ. It is still up to the students to choose how they will learn. It made no difference whether the students learn a subject in a regular classroom or online. What mattered, according to Morgan, was how hard they attempted to learn. Paul and Jefferson conducted a comparison analysis of students' performance in an online environmental class to support the study, and concluded that students' performance did not differ significantly between traditional and online classes.